Some encounters can completely change a person's life. For one young man, that encounter came in the form of a metallic slime found in a mysterious cave. News reports detail the emergence of a large sinkhole near Harumi Pier, which authorities are investigating as a potential new, large-scale dungeon. Watching the broadcast is high schooler Yuma Mitaka, who notes that if confirmed, this would be the 6th dungeon in Japan. Yuma watches a popular dungeon vlogger exploring a dungeon. The vlogger excitedly shows off the fairy-like monsters on the 18th floor of Sapporo's White Dungeon. The vlogger easily dispatches a monster with thunder magic. It drops a valuable magic gem and he celebrates his luck. He notes that a pure white moonstone is worth about 1.4 million yen, much to Yuma's dismay. 7 years have passed since dungeons first appeared. What once caused fear has now become a major, socially accepted industry. The unknown creatures within these dungeons produce magic gems, which are the source of usable magic. Yuma reflects bitterly that despite the emergence of this incredible new reality, only a select few actually profit from it. The beneficiaries include those backed by large corporations. Others who profit are those with government-recognized abilities. And of course, there are those who are already popular and can secure sponsors. He slumps over, lamenting that it's all unfair, and that a normal person like him never gets a chance. Suddenly, his dog begins barking frantically. Yuma is surprised by the commotion, as Mamezu is usually very docile. He wonders if someone has entered the yard. Feeling dejected, Yuma steps outside. He feels that because he isn't particularly smart or talented, his life hasn't amounted to much. He believed that no matter how hard he tried, nothing good would ever come of it. That was how he felt, until he and Mamezu discovered a large, mysterious hole in his yard. He grabs a flashlight and approaches the hole. He realizes it's not just a sinkhole but a strange cave. As he looks inside, he senses something moving within. Inside the cave, a small, dark, glistening creature appears. Yuma crouches down, wondering what it is. Back inside, a quick search on his phone brings up an image that looks just like it. The monsterwiki describes slimes as translucent and colorful, unlike the one in the hole. Overseas news mentions rare, tough metal slimes, though details are scarce. He then reads that no metal slime has ever been subjugated, realizing that if he defeats it, he'll be the first in the world. Yuma dismisses the idea, thinking the small hole couldn't possibly be a real dungeon. He figures that only the idly curious would try to enter one. However, the vlogger's voice reminds him of the dangerous but rewarding profession of a dungeon explorer. The vlogger's words about magic gems trading for millions of yen ring in his ears. He had called it a dream come true. Inspired, Yuma returns to the cave, armed with a hammer. He reasons that since the cave is narrow and the slime is small, it shouldn't be too dangerous or able to escape. He swings the hammer at the slime. However, it just clangs off the creature's incredibly hard body. The impact sends a painful tingle up his arm as the slime begins jumping around wildly. The slime suddenly lunges, striking him hard. Back inside, he nurses his injured arm with an ice pack. Yuma collapses on the couch, exhausted from the ordeal. He warns Mamezu to stay away from the hole, calling the creature a vicious monster. He wonders how he could possibly defeat something so tough. Frustrated, he looks up slime traits again, reading that they're supposed to be weak monsters that even a child could defeat. The guide claims they move slowly and that physical attacks are sufficient, which contradicts his experience entirely. He then reads that only magic is effective against powerful monsters, but notes that the hole in his yard is ridiculously shallow. Since he can't use magic, he feels he has no choice but to give up. But then, a new idea strikes him. Since the slime is metal, perhaps fire would be effective. He realizes he might be able to defeat it by burning it, even without magic. With renewed determination, he grabs a gas burner used for home barbecues. He cautiously approaches the slime, trying to get close without startling it. However, the creature starts moving again, making it a difficult target. Once again, the slime attacks, knocking him back. Utterly defeated, Yuma lies on the floor, feeling completely done with the situation. He considers just boarding up the hole and pretending he never saw it, or simply reporting it. He recalls the news saying that discovering a dungeon on private property requires contacting the authorities, which seems like a huge hassle. He curses his luck, thinking that if he hadn't found the hole, he wouldn't be in this mess. He feels that this is just how his life goes, nothing ever goes well for him. He tells himself he should just stop getting involved. Yet he can't shake the feeling of being invested in this challenge. Driven by this lingering determination, he rummages through his closet. He exclaims as he finds what he's looking for. He holds up a can of cooling spray. He reasons that since it's used to chill and stop insects, it might work on the metal slime too. He formulates a new plan: use the cooling spray to make the metal brittle, then rapidly heat it with the gas burner. Steeling himself, he decides that if this doesn't work, he will give up. This will be his final attempt. He observes that the slime doesn't leave the cave. This means he'll have to go inside to confront it. He cautiously enters, placing his equipment down near the creature. He starts by spraying the slime with the cooling spray. Frost quickly forms on its surface, and he prepares the burner for the next step. As he ignites the burner, he's hit by a blast of flame. He realizes the cooling spray's propellant was flammable. Luckily, the gas is contained at the back of the hole. Seeing his chance, he presses his attack while the slime is burning. He exclaims that his plan is working. The thermal shock should have made the slime fragile enough to break. He reaches for the hammer he brought with him initially. With a determined cry, he swings the hammer one last time, certain of victory. The metal slime cracks and shatters. Exhausted but triumphant, Yuma declares his victory. He looks for the magic gem but finds that the slime dropped nothing at all. His triumphant smile quickly fades. Stretching under the sun, Yuma accepts the outcome, feeling a sense of accomplishment despite the lack of reward. He decides to cover the hole with cardboard, and with that, the fierce struggle between Yuma and the strange slime came to an end. Or at least, that was supposed to be the case. The next morning, he's awoken by Mamezu barking again. His mother tells him that Mamezu has been yapping all morning and asks him to check on it. Yuma goes outside to find the dog barking at the cardboard covering the hole. Peeking under it, he realizes with dread what has happened. His old friend, the metal slime, had returned. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, Israel, at the headquarters of the International Dungeon Research Organization, a different discovery is being made. Dungeon research expert Ethan Noble stands admiring a new discovery. His assistant, Clark Griffin, approaches him. Ethan remarks to Clark that he never gets tired of looking at it. He is looking at a huge stone tablet discovered in the middle floors of Orpheus, the world's deepest dungeon. He explains that the holy inscriptions on the tablet tell a story. Ethan reveals the tablet's prophecy: when the king of the monsters awakens, the world will head towards a path of destruction. On his way to school, Yuma is greeted by his childhood friend, Cade Ikanos, who teases him for his lackluster response. She notes that he's been unusually early lately. Cade wonders if he's getting self-conscious about their upcoming final year. Yuma dismisses her suggestion. Cade asks Yuma about their other friend Rui. Cade reveals that Rui plans to work in the dungeoneering business in the future. The news catches Yuma completely by surprise. She adds that she finds the field unstable. However, Cade corrects herself, explaining to Yuma that the dungeoneering business is currently booming. She gives an example, mentioning that magic gems from the White Dungeon can treat injuries and illnesses, attracting many healthcare companies to the industry. As Yuma processes this new information, Cade asks if he has given any thought to his own future, all while privately thinking how amazing Rui is for having such clear goals. Yuma internally confirms that he has indeed been thinking about his future, in his own unique way. He recalls learning from a trivia show that the drop rate for gems is a tough 1%. Back at the cave, he sighs in frustration as he prepares for the grind. He finds the slime has reappeared yet again. Despite the low odds, Yuma's simple logic excites him. He figures killing one slime a day means he'll get a gem in 100 days. Since the slime is rare, he imagines its gem could be worth $1 million. This leads him to dream of earning $1 million every 100 days. While Cade praises Rui for having a clear future, Yuma is lost in his own thoughts. He believes he has a get-rich-easy future ahead of him. However, he admits to himself that back then, he hadn't realized the harsh reality of his plan. The reality was a grueling and fruitless effort. No matter how many slimes he killed, a magic gem never dropped. The grind becomes too harsh. He laments how all his pocket money is being spent on cooling sprays and gas burners. Exhausted, he complains to his dog Mamezu that he's sick of it. Mamezu licks his face, cheering him up. This renews his determination not to lose heart. He continues to wake up early and pour his money into the endeavor, all for the dream of $1 million gem. He examines a cooling spray, wondering if he can find it on sale. Suddenly, he hears his name being called. The voice is a memory of Cade asking about his future. Alone at the cave, Yuma reflects on her question, admitting to himself that he doesn't know anything about that kind of stuff. He stands alone, questioning whether he's truly okay with his current path. Snow begins to fall over the city. On February 2nd, Yuma is at school. He sees his other childhood friend, Owasawa Rui, who greets him warmly. Yuma notes that it's Valentine's Day. He comments on the chocolates Rui has received. When she offers him some, he panics and claims not to like sweets. He immediately reverses his statement and insists that he's always loved them. Rui mentions hearing about his interest in the dungeoneering business. He quickly denies it. She then changes the subject, asking if he received any chocolates from Kid. Surprised, Yuma admits that he hasn't gotten any from her in the past few years. Rui explains that she was just wondering, since it seems Cade gives out chocolates every year. As the class bell rings, she excuses herself. Yuma is left to ponder their conversation. After class, Yuma loiters by the school gate. Just as he turns to leave, he's startled by a sudden slap on his back. It's Cade who chides him for leaving so quickly, explaining she had been looking for him to give him chocolates. She admits she was loitering at the gate, hoping to run into him. She then presents her gift, teasingly asking if he's received any others this year. Cade challenges him to prove he received other chocolates. Flustered, he quietly accepts her gift and thanks her. She laughs and says he's welcome. They part ways. However, Yuma stops her, telling her he has to know something. He asks why she gives chocolates to him when he heard she doesn't give any to Rui. Cade simply replies that the reason is obvious. Cade explains that Rui gets plenty of chocolates from others, so it would be unfortunate if Yuma didn't receive any. As his childhood friend, she feels it's her duty to keep things balanced. Later, back at the cave, Yuma is furious at Cade's reasoning. He yells her name in frustration as he takes out his anger on another metal slime. After defeating the slime, he catches his breath. He wonders what he's even doing with his life. He laments that nothing good ever seems to happen to him. Just then, he notices the remains of the slime beginning to shift and coalesce. He turns in shock as something begins to form from the dark liquid. Before his astonished eyes, a large, black magic gem materializes from the slime's remains. The gem falls to the ground with a thud. This unexpected event occurred on the 18th day of his continuous battle against the metal slimes. He races into his room, overwhelmed with excitement, celebrating the acquisition he's been working towards. Catching his breath, he confirms to himself that he has finally obtained it. He gazes at the magic gem, a reward for half a year of effort. His mind immediately fills with dreams of what he'll buy with the million it's surely worth, including some fancy food for his dog Mamezu. However, as he examines the dull stone, a sliver of doubt creeps in. He questions if it's truly a gem, as he had imagined it to be much more sparkly. Feeling that the object looks more like a piece of iron than a gem, he decides to search for answers online. His search leads him to a dungeon strategy guide, which discusses something called the Black Dungeon and magic ore. The guide explains that unlike the White Dungeon, which produces healing gems, the Black Dungeon is largely unexplored. The article reveals a harsh truth: the items dropped by monsters in the Black Dungeon are not magic gems, but a metallic substance known as magic ore. While there is some data suggesting these ores can boost physical abilities, the effects are so unclear and minimal that most people find it's faster to just work out. Consequently, the trade price for magic ores is extremely low, a fact that leaves Yuma in stunned disbelief. Yuma collapses onto his bed, utterly dejected. He realizes the hole in his yard must be a black dungeon. All his struggles and the pocket money he spent have amounted to nothing. He recalls a conversation with Cade 5 months ago, right after summer break. She had mentioned that they would be in their final year of school when spring comes, which is now only 2 months away. The reality of his situation sinks in. He knows life isn't easy and there are no dream chances, yet he still wasted months on a fruitless endeavor. Now he feels he must seriously think about his future. His thoughts drift to Rui, who has already chosen his path and is working hard towards it. Yuma quickly shakes his head, telling himself that Rui's life has nothing to do with his own. He resolves to go at his own pace and do his best from this point forward. Deciding to put the slime and the magic ore behind him, Yuma tries to sleep. He is woken by Mamezu's incessant barking. Still dazed, he asks his dog what's wrong. He reminds Mamezu there's no need to bark anymore since he filled up the hole the previous day. When he goes outside to check, he is shocked to see the filled-in hole has completely reappeared. Peeking inside, he discovers that the slime is back as well. He realizes with horror that the dungeon simply resets every day. Exhausted and seeing no profit in this endless cycle, he pleads with a still barking Mamezu to stop. Yuma tries to carry the struggling Mamezu back inside. A woman appears and scolds him for making so much noise and bothering the neighbors. Utterly defeated and lamenting his situation, he has no choice but to resume his task. Overwhelmed, Yuma breaks down, crying that he's had enough. He regrets not reporting the dungeon immediately and wishes he didn't have to get scolded. In his frustration, he looks at the magic ore and blames it for his misery, wishing it had been a real magic gem. A thought then occurs to him: if the ore won't sell, perhaps he could try using it himself. He looks up a video on how to use magic gems and ore. The process is surprisingly simple. Disinfect it, then swallow it, and the body will break it down, allowing the user to access magic. The video adds a crucial warning: the gems and ores contain mana, and a person can only absorb one if their own mana index exceeds that of the stone. To use magic, one needs mana, which increases by defeating monsters. This is measured by a special device. Believing he must have a high mana index after killing so many metal slimes, Yuma feels a surge of confidence. Discovering that a mana index meter can be bought like a regular appliance, he presents his new hairdryer-shaped device. He rushes out and purchases one. Though the $100 price tag is a hit to his wallet, he considers it a win since he found a cheap second-hand model. Full of excitement, Yuma aims the meter at the magic ore from the rare metal slime, eager to see its power. He clicks the button, but there is only silence. Confused, he tries again and again. The device shows no reaction. Frustrated, Yuma returns to the store, complaining to the support counter that the mana index meter he just bought is broken. The employee apologizes and agrees to check it immediately. However, 5 minutes later, the employee returns and informs him that there's no malfunction with the device. To prove his point, the employee tests the meter on 3 genuine magic gems with mana indexes of 1, 2, and 3 respectively. The device accurately measures their values. The employee then asks Yuma what exactly he was trying to measure, leaving him at a loss for words. Yuma hesitantly admits he measured a magic ore. The employee explains that magic ores generally have a low mana index, which might not show up on the meter. But Yuma insists that his own mana index also registered as 0. This seems impossible to him since he's killed over 100 strong slimes. The employee calmly tells him there seems to be a misunderstanding. The employee clarifies that humans can only absorb a small fraction of the mana from the monsters they kill. For example, defeating a monster with a mana index of 100 might only increase the victor's index by 1. Therefore, no matter how many low-level slimes Yuma defeats, it's common for his mana index not to increase at all. Dejected, Yuma sits on a park swing, lamenting his wasted $100. He can't accept that his mana is 0 after killing so many monsters and refuses to give up. However, he's terrified of the consequences of swallowing the magic ore without being sure. As he swings, he notices a discarded flyer. It's an advertisement for the Blue Dungeon, inviting people to hang out. More importantly, it offers free and accurate mana index readings, and a spark of hope ignites within him. Convinced this is his chance, Yuma arrives at the Musashi Kogane station. He finds the building. He purchases an $8 student ticket to the first floor. He finds the mana measuring room. He swallows nervously as he approaches. He sits and waits, his heart pounding, telling himself this professional facility will give a proper reading. He hopes that all the money he spent will not have been in vain as his turn arrives. He receives his test results, certain that his half-year of defeating metal slimes will finally pay off, but the paper shows all zeros. The technician confirms that his mana index is 0. The technician adds that their device is accurate down to 0.01 units, so there's likely no error. Yuma is left speechless. As Yuma trudges away, the technicians behind the counter gossip about him. One remarks that there have been a lot of amateurs lately who think killing low-level monsters will raise their mana. The other agrees, stating that it doesn't matter how many slimes they kill in the Blue Dungeon, it won't do anything. He adds that they can't really tell the clients this, as it would be a downer. Suddenly, the mana measuring machine begins to whir loudly. It starts to malfunction, spitting out an endless stream of paper. The technicians watch in shock, wondering what is happening. The technicians panic, wondering if their multi-million-dollar machine is broken as it continues to spit out blank paper. Elsewhere, Yuma looks at his own results sheet one last time, sobbing that no matter how many times he looks, it's just zeros. Dejected, Yuma stares at his mana test results, seeing it as a short-lived dream. He laments that half a year's worth of effort has gone down the drain. His original goal was to get his mana measured, and he realizes he's standing right in front of the blue dungeon. Since he went through the trouble of coming, Yuma decides to take a look inside. A guide warns everyone entering the blue dungeon to be well prepared. Yuma scoffs, wondering if it's really that big of a deal compared to the hole in his garden. He's immediately left speechless by the sight before him. The blue dungeon is revealed to be an enormous chasm, far larger than anything Yuma could have imagined. He walks down the stairs, stunned by the sheer scale of the place. At the entrance, a staff member confirms with Yuma that he's a first-timer. She asks for his entry pass, assuring him that floor 1 is safe. She then smiles and asks if he brought a weapon to fight monsters. Yuma is caught by surprise, questioning the need for a weapon. When Yuma admits he doesn't have a weapon, the staff member understands. She gestures towards the weapon rental outlet and tells him to pick whatever he likes. She reminds him to return it when he's done. Yuma agrees to provide his name, address, and phone number as per the rental terms. Having chosen a hammer because it feels the most familiar, Yuma prepares to enter the dungeon. He descends the long staircase, wishing there were elevators. Reaching the bottom, he notes that the path gets better from here. Yuma finally arrives at floor 1. As he steps through the doors, he is completely taken aback by the amazing view. He stands amidst ancient ruins, marveling at the vast and breathtaking landscape of the dungeon's first floor. Yuma finds it interesting that there's still light shining from somewhere despite being so far down. He figures the reason it isn't dark is because the place is like a tourist spot, bustling with people. He observes that everyone else has come in groups, making him realize he's the only one alone. With so many people around, he wonders if there are even any monsters left to fight. Yuma spots a lone slime hopping by. He crouches down to observe it, recognizing it as an ordinary slime. He notes how incredibly slow it is compared to the hyperactive metal slimes in his garden. He prepares to attack the slime. With a single strike, he easily defeats the slime. He's shocked by how weak it is, realizing the slime in his garden is 100 times stronger. He recalls being told that defeating slimes doesn't increase one's mana index. The realization hits him hard, making his last 6 months of suffering feel utterly pointless. After defeating several more slimes without getting a single drop, Yuma feels it's a pointless exercise. Nearby, however, a young adventurer celebrates finding a blue magic gem. The adventurer and her companion discuss the gem's value, estimating it could sell for around 2,000 yen. However, she decides to keep it for herself, eager to use magic. Overhearing their conversation, Yuma feels embarrassed, wondering if his own way of thinking is on par with an elementary schooler's. He realizes his mana level is even lower than he thought. Yuma looks at his test results again, feeling defeated that no matter how many slimes he defeats, he still can't use magic. The scene shifts to the International Dungeon Research Organization. A senior researcher approaches his assistant, Clark, at what he deems perfect timing. He hands Clark a folder, asking him to pass it on to a man named Ethan, though Clark seems hesitant. The researcher admits he doesn't like Ethan, calling him an odd and rude person. However, he acknowledges that Ethan is an outstanding scholar who first discovered mana, and his expertise is necessary. He tells Clark to look over the report as well before departing. After reading the report, a shocked Clark approaches Ethan. Ethan, sipping his tea, calmly confirms that what's in the report is unmistakably true. The report shows that mana is leaking out of the dungeons at an increasing rate. Clark expresses his concern that this will become a serious problem in the near future. Ethan explains that the only reason monsters haven't appeared above ground yet is because there was no mana there for them to subsist on. Ethan states that if the mana leak continues, it's only a matter of time before monsters start appearing on the surface. Clark is alarmed by how carefree Ethan seems, but Ethan reassures him that there's no need to panic for the time being. Ethan clarifies that the increase in mana density is still negligible, so only weak, low-level monsters would appear, posing no immediate danger. He advises Clark to stay calm and devise appropriate measures. He mentions that there's something even more important written in the report. Clark reads that the rising mana density in the upper levels will cause monsters from deeper levels to ascend. Despite this, he begins to calm down. He asks what other problems could take precedence over this. Ethan explains the true implication of mana overflowing outside the dungeons. It means that people will finally be able to use magic outside of the dungeons. Back at his desk, Yuma is lost in thought. He stares at the single magic ore he possesses, contemplating what he should do with it. He reflects on the 181 days of defeating the metal slime it took to obtain the magic ore. Despite knowing it has a negligible effect and a low price, he still wants to use it. His insatiable curiosity drives him to try it anyway as a celebration of his efforts. Yuma knows that even if there's a tiny bit of mana in the ore, he can't use it. He knows his mana is effectively zero, but that doesn't mean it's absolutely nothing. The quickest way to test the ore is to eat it, but the thought of it passing through him unused makes him uneasy. He turns to the internet for more research. After a quick search, Yuma learns the average size of human waste. He confidently concludes that even if the 2-centimeter ore were to pass through him, it would be perfectly all right. Yuma disinfects the ore with alcohol. He grabs some tea from the fridge. He prepares to swallow it, steeling himself for whatever comes next. He swallows the ore and washes it down with his drink. After a moment, he feels no different at all. Suddenly, a jolt runs through him. He realizes the effect was just delayed as a warmth spreads through his stomach, thinking he absorbed it. He excitedly wonders if he's about to gain an awesome hidden power, recalling that magic ore is supposed to increase physical abilities. Yuma excitedly throws a punch to test his new strength. However, he quickly realizes that nothing has changed. He sighs, remembering that magic only works in dungeons, and decides to just be happy he swallowed it. His dog, Mamezu, suddenly lunges at him. Yuma is startled, explaining he was just testing to see if anything had changed. Mamezu continues to bark aggressively as Yuma tries to calm him down. He notes that Mamezu only ever barks like that when the slime appears or when he's hungry. As he tries to reason with his dog, a strange pattern appears on Yuma's cheek and he looks down at his hand. He is shocked to see his hands have transformed into monstrous, clawed appendages. He stares down at his transformed body, completely bewildered by what has just happened to him. As Yuma rushes through the house in a panic, a woman calls out to him, wondering what he is up to while Mamezu continues to bark. He stares at his reflection, shocked to see his face has taken on a metallic sheen. The horrifying realization dawns on him that he has turned into metal. Touching his face, Yuma deduces this must be the ability of the magic ore. His arm has become pitch black and sharp. He wonders how this is possible, believing that magic was only usable within dungeons. Panic begins to set in as he questions if he can even revert to normal. He finds his new appearance terrible and is terrified he might be stuck this way for the rest of his life. He desperately wishes for the transformation to reverse. Feeling utterly screwed, he collapses, convinced he cannot change back. He blames the metal slime for his predicament. He notes that his new hand looks just like the creature's. An idea strikes him as he spots a nearby hammer. He strikes himself with the hammer, which merely clinks against his metallic skin. He's surprised that it doesn't hurt, realizing he's as hard as a metal slime. This gives him another idea. He tests a gas torch on his arm, recoiling from the heat. He then tries a coolant spray, recoiling from the cold. Yuma figures out that he shares the slime's weakness to fire and cold. To his immense relief, his body begins to revert to normal. He jumps for joy, ecstatic that the effect, which lasted about 5 minutes, wore off. Though initially surprised, he found the experience somewhat funny. However, he wonders if he'll be able to transform again. The following day, Yuma concentrates, trying to will the transformation to happen again. To his delight, he successfully turns his body to metal once more. He reflects that despite having a mana index of 0, some kind of ability awakened within him. The transformation wears off after 5 minutes, just like before. When he tries to activate it again immediately after, nothing happens. He concludes that he can only use this power once per day. Yuma begins to imagine the possibilities of his new power. He pictures himself easily defeating monsters in the lower levels of dungeons with his metal fists. He also recalls the streamer he saw selling a magic gem for a fortune, briefly considering the financial potential. Though he quickly dismisses the thought. He remembers the streamer explaining that in the deep levels of a dungeon, monsters are so sturdy that physical attacks are almost useless. These creatures, like fire-breathing dragons and lightning-clad demons, can manipulate magic themselves. This makes magic the only effective weapon against them. The reality of his situation sinks in. His ability is purely physical, and he's weak to common magic like fire and cold. Acknowledging that his power is still useless, he feels dejected. He can't think of any practical way to apply it. Yuma reflects on his own life, realizing he often worries about his future. But ultimately, he just lazes around. He envies the rich and famous, but makes no effort to change his own circumstances. With no clear direction, he had decided to attend a low-tier university. He admits that even his daily routine of fighting the metal slime felt like a bother. He continued this routine every single day, fighting the slime. He would greet his dog Mamezu before heading out. More than a year has passed since he first found the metal slime, a year he spent mostly lazing around. Meanwhile, deep within the Red Dungeon in Ibaraki Prefecture, a group of explorers finds themselves in grave danger. They run for their lives, crying out for help. A young woman trails behind in tears, pleading for someone to save her. They are being pursued by a massive, armored salamander. The monster unleashes a fiery breath attack. A young woman with blonde hair leaps forward, using her cloak to shield another person from the flames. She then skillfully parries the monster's attack with her blade. She deftly dodges the salamander's powerful swipes. With a final, powerful thrust, she strikes a decisive blow against the massive beast. After the battle, one of the explorers rushes to her side to see if she is all right. She reassures him that she is fine, explaining that the fireproof coat she borrowed for the trial session protected her. When asked for her name, she introduces herself as Amasawa Louis, a third-year high school student. Later, Louis waits in an office. A man enters, apologizing for the delay. He introduces himself as Ishikawa of the Elst Corporation, the supervisor for the dungeon trial. He expresses his gratitude to Louis for saving his employees, but she humbly replies that she is just glad they are safe. Ishikawa questions Louis about her fight with the salamander, noting that she precisely pierced its vital points. Louis explains that she has studied dungeon monsters and can recall their weak spots. Impressed by her outstanding performance, Ishikawa suggests they proceed. He asks her to hold out her hand. Ishikawa presents her with the vermilion silver ruby, the magic gem dropped by the salamander. He explains that since she defeated the monster, the gem is hers. It is a rare item with a mana index of 700, worth 14 million yen. Louis tries to refuse such a valuable item, but Ishikawa insists, stating that the rules allow it. He adds that he feels it will be useful to her in the future. On December 12th, a sleepy Yuma complains about school. While watching TV, he expresses his disinterest in news about celebrities. However, his attention is piqued when a segment on dungeon-related news begins. The news reports on a recent incident at a dungeon trial held by the Elst Corporation, where a salamander from the 10th floor appeared on the upper levels. Yuma remarks on how strong such a monster must be. The report continues, mentioning that a woman under attack was rescued by a high school student. His heart skips a beat. His heart pounds as the news reveals the identity of the hero, 17-year-old Amasawa Louis. Stunned, Yuma stands frozen, recognizing the name of his childhood friend. The broadcast shows Louis at a press conference, surrounded by cameras. When a reporter asks if she was afraid, she replies that she was too absorbed in the fight to feel fear. She humbly credits the available rental weapons for her success, noting that even the seekers at Elst were surprised a high school student could defeat such a powerful monster. A reporter asks about the magic gem worth 14 million yen. Louis states she plans to use it herself, shocking Yuma. She then declares her intention to become a seeker in the future. At the press conference, an official praises Louis' excellent grades and strong desire to contribute to society. Yuma, watching with Cade, asks what Elst is. Cade explains it's Japan's biggest dungeoneering corporation, and Louis' dream is to join. The official announces that Louis will attend the Seeker Training Institution after graduation. Cade scolds Yuma for his ignorance. She reminds him he never showed any interest before. Cade then reveals that she has something to tell him as well. She will be joining the STI with Louis after graduation. She declares her ambition to become a messiah, a specialized job for those who can use healing magic with a white magic gem. Yuma asks if becoming a messiah isn't more difficult than becoming a seeker. Cade confirms it is, but explains that Louis helped her get an aptitude test from Elst, where she was told she had potential. Having finally found her dream, she is determined to do her best, leaving Yuma to ponder the concepts of dreams and the future. Yuma reflects on his two childhood friends, Louis and Keed, whom he always imagined he would be with forever. He realizes that while he was idle, they both found their dreams and began working hard to achieve them. As he watches them run ahead, he is left standing still, questioning what he is doing with his own life. He doesn't know what to do, he has no passions, no interests, and nothing he truly wants to pursue. A sense of urgency washes over him, he feels he has to do something. Yuma recognizes that the biggest difference between himself and his friends Keed and Louis is their academic ability. Determined to catch up, he resolves to start studying, but his motivation quickly fades into a feeling of hopelessness. He turns to his dog Mamezu, wondering if he has any hidden potential at all. Sitting with Mamezu, Yuma confesses that he feels lost, lacking any dreams or goals to pursue. He feels he has no clear goals and lacks the motivation to do anything. He contrasts his own aimlessness with his childhood friend, Amasawa Louis, an attractive and talented young man whose future seems bright as he aims to become a seeker and recently made the news for slaying a salamander. Yuma then thinks about his other childhood friend, Ikino's Keed. He notes that she has become more mature recently and now aims to become a messiah. He feels that while Louis and Keed are both aiming to become a seeker and a messiah respectively, he is being left behind. He acknowledges that his friend's talents will naturally draw the envy of others. Seeing them so radiant and focused on their dreams makes him realize he's missing something to strive for. He wishes he had a goal he could wholeheartedly pursue. Mamezu's barks bring Yuma back to the present, and he resolves to stick with his daily routine. Since his last upgrade, he has obtained 2 more magic ores. After consuming them, the duration of his metallization ability extended by another 15 minutes, which he still considers a useless improvement. As he approaches the cave to fight the slime as usual, he senses something different. A shimmering golden slime appears before him. Yuma is stunned to see this new variant. As he tries to react, the slime darts away with incredible speed, and he scrambles to stop it. He quickly discovers that his usual coolant spray is ineffective against this new slime. Realizing this is a completely different type of monster, he becomes determined to defeat it. After an intense effort, he finally succeeds. He's exhausted from using so much of his spray and burner. After the battle, a small object clatters to the ground. He crouches down to inspect it and is surprised to find a golden magic ore. Later at home, he searches the internet for information on golden magic ores from the Black Dungeon but finds no results. His mana index meter reads 0, indicating the ore has no value as a magic gem. He gets the idea to sell it as gold. He calls a precious metals exchange service to inquire about an appraisal. However, they inform him that he needs a purchase history or certificate of purity, which he doesn't have. His plan is further thwarted when he learns that miners are not allowed to sell there alone. With no other choice, Yuma decides to consume the golden ore himself. He worries briefly that it might turn his body a shiny golden color. He activates his metallization ability. He is relieved to see that his body retains its usual metal color, with no apparent changes. Over the next few days, something strange happens. Every time Yuma defeats a slime, it drops a magic ore. He finds this incredibly odd. He had been killing metallic slimes every day for over a year, and had only ever gotten 3 magic ores, but now they have been dropping for 5 days straight. He comes to a single conclusion: the golden magic ore must have increased his luck, raising the drop rate of magic ores to 100%. The possibility that his year of struggle might finally be rewarded excites him. He wonders if this effect also applies to magic gems and decides to test his theory on the normal slimes at the Blue Dungeon. Unfortunately, his trip to the Blue Dungeon yields no magic gems. The effect is apparently limited to magic ores. He continues his daily routine and collects 14 more ores, which he consumes, increasing his metallization duration to a maximum of 70 minutes. Just as he was about to wallow in disappointment, a new development occurred. A red slime appears, surprising Yuma with yet another color variation. The creature lunges at him immediately. Yuma is surprised that his metallization could evolve further. He taunts the red slime, boasting that consuming many magic ores has made him incredibly tough. Though he dislikes this form because it rips his clothes, he is ready for a fight. He is confident that physical attacks are useless against him. He attempts his usual finishing blow with the burner. But it has no effect. He realizes the red slime must be immune to heat. Unsure how to proceed, he searches his phone for ways to weaken metal. He finds a promising method involving a cleaning agent that causes rust. For his next attempt, Yuma comes prepared with a mask, gloves, a bucket, and an acidic cleaning agent, after ensuring Manhwa is safe. He freezes the slime, then places it in the bucket with the cleaning agent, rolling it around to coat it. Once the slime is fully covered in rust, he uses his usual cooling and heating method to finish it off. He achieves victory. The next day he encounters yet another color variant. This one is immune to the cold, making it difficult to immobilize. He devises a new strategy. After moving Manhwa, he sprays water around the cave entrance and prepares newspapers, a lighter, and kerosene. He decides to burn the entire hole, once again emerging victorious. The following day brings another new slime. It proves to be a normal fight, easily defeated with heating and cooling. Day after day, a new colored slime appears, and he collects 4 more colored magic ores, wondering about this strange new pattern. Yuma suspects that the golden magic ore also increased the drop rate for these colored ores. Since they can't be sold, he decides to consume them. To check for any changes, he prepares to activate his metallization ability, taking off his shirt first to prevent it from ripping. He flexes to activate his power. But this time is different. A black, viscous substance erupts from his body. It creaks and cracks as it solidifies into a new, more complex form. He is shocked to see a monstrous new form, with horns and armor-like plating covering his body. He stares at his reflection in disbelief. He panics, wondering what in the world has grown out of him. He realizes that consuming the colored magic ores must have caused this jagged, scary transformation. He tries to calm himself, remembering that the metallization will eventually wear off. Before it does, he decides to check online to see what effects these magic ores might have. His online search reveals information about different colored dungeons and the magic gems they produce. He theorizes that the magic ores he consumed might have similar attributes as the gems from corresponding dungeons. However, he doesn't feel like he can use magic. He wonders where to begin testing his new abilities. He begins his test by using his gas burner on his hand. He is surprised to find that it isn't hot. He then tries the coolant spray and realizes it isn't cold either. He deduces that the red ore gave him fire resistance and the blue ore gave him cold resistance. Following this logic, the yellow and green ores should provide lightning and wind resistance. The realization dawns on him. He has obtained resistance to all 4 major types of attack: magic, fire, water, lightning, and wind. He is amazed at this incredible power-up. However, his excitement is short-lived, as he remembers that these new abilities are of no use in his daily life and don't help him find the dream or goal he so desperately seeks. After 5 minutes, he returns to normal, relieved. Having already encountered red, blue, yellow, and green slimes, he wonders if a white one will be next. He considers that immunity to healing magic would be a strange ability, but is ready for whatever weird slime comes out. The thought of what might appear next fills him with anticipation. The next day, he returns to the cave and is met with a shocking sight. A massive black slime blocks his path, its sheer size leaving him speechless. The story flashes back 2 weeks, to the day after Yuma defeated the golden slime. At the International Dungeon Research Organization, a researcher notes the commotion caused by the defeat of a duke-ranked beast. This marks the 3rd duke to be defeated, a significant event as it has been 3 years since the last unique monster was slain. The organization tracks these unique monsters using the Orpheus stone tablet, discovered in the White Dungeon. This tablet categorizes the most powerful monsters into 6 kings, 12 lords, and 24 dukes. When one is defeated, the corresponding ore on the tablet shatters, making it an artifact of great importance. The fact that a black ore was crushed is particularly interesting. One researcher confirms they are checking with governments worldwide, as defeating a duke would require a considerable clan. Another lists countries with large black dungeons, including Japan, but dismisses it as a low possibility due to the lack of exploration. The first researcher smirks, noting that diving deep into a profitless black dungeon is not worth the risk for most. Back in the present, Yuma thinks to himself that there must be some daring people out there. He is taken aback by the sheer size of the slime before him, feeling a profound sense of relief that slimes are unable to leave their holes. Usually metal slimes are about 15 cm, but this one is a massive 75 cm. Despite his apprehension, Yuma refuses to give up. He dreams of the super rare magic or a monster this huge might drop. With his burners and sprays ready, he prepares for the fight. Most importantly, he has his enhanced metallic ability. In his haste, he forgets to remove his clothes and charges forward. He activates his ability and lunges forward. Suddenly, the slime attacks, catching him completely by surprise. The slime unleashes sharp, blade-like tentacles. To Yuma's astonishment, the attack doesn't cut him or even hurt. He realizes his metallic form must be harder than he thought. The slime shifts its attack, forming various tools from its body to strike him. The force of the blows sends him flying. Yuma is unharmed and yells in frustration that its attacks are useless. The slime transforms again, this time into a spiky ball. The spikes don't hurt him, but they shred his clothes. Confident that his metallic body can withstand the attacks, he readies his sprays and burners to continue the fight. After 30 minutes, the battle rages on. An hour passes and Yuma is determined not to lose. Exhausted, he asks the equally tired-looking slime if it has had enough. Though the constant attacks didn't hurt, they were incredibly annoying. He has used up all his sprays and burners and wonders what to do now. With no other options, Yuma pulls out his trusty nail hammer, a tool he's used every day for over a year. Filled with frustration, he resolves to smash the resilient slime once and for all. With a powerful swing, Yuma brings the hammer down, shattering the giant slime. A unique magic ore drops from the defeated slime. Exhausted from the prolonged battle, Yuma collapses. Just then, his mother arrives, scolding him for shredding his clothes while supposedly playing with Manhwa. Back home, Yuma examines the sparkling ore. It looks like an ordinary magic ore with a floral pattern. He'd hoped his mana would increase after defeating such a powerful monster, but his mana checker shows a reading of 0. He checks the patterned magic ore, but it has no mana. If it had even a little mana, he could have sold it. With no other choice, he decides to swallow this one too. He feels a familiar warmth spread through his stomach, a sensation he's grown used to. Suddenly, the warmth intensifies, becoming much hotter than before. He panics, wondering if he made a mistake by eating it. The feeling soon subsides, much to his surprise and relief. He wonders if this new ore will bring about a different kind of change to his body. Eager to see the results, Yuma decides to try his metal transformation. He once again forgets to take off his clothes, realizing he's about to rip another set. A black, viscous substance erupts and begins to envelop him. The substance solidifies, revealing a completely new, powerful armored form. Yuma is in awe of his new form. He thinks it looks incredibly strong, like a villain from a superhero movie. He also notices he's grown taller and can see much higher than before. With such a strong appearance, he wonders if he has gained other special abilities. He recalls the giant slime's fearsome blade-like tentacles and wonders if he can use them too. He transforms his arm into a sword. Then he changes it into a hammer. He marvels at the idea that he can change his body just by imagining it and wonders what else he can do. While his mom is out, Yuma calls to Manhwa to show him what he can do. His transformation into a simple black slime blob terrifies the dog. He quickly reassures his pet that it's just him. Catching his reflection in a glass door, he admits to himself that he looks like a scary monster, but decides to ignore that thought for now. Meanwhile, at the exact same time Yuma was battling the giant slime, an event was unfolding at the International Dungeon Research Organization. The chief researchers were holding an emergency meeting. They have gathered to discuss an unprecedented and serious situation. For 4 consecutive days, there have been abnormal events recorded on the Orpheus tablet. Chairman Maya Berger recalls the report from 2 weeks ago about a Black Duke being defeated, finding it unbelievable that 4 lords have now been defeated in such quick succession. Physicist James Bright points out the lack of information, suspecting a country is conducting a large-scale exploration. Biologist Lee Haoran dismisses this as baseless speculation against his country. Archaeologist Ahmed Tahir wonders why anyone would conquer 4 dungeons almost simultaneously. The American and Chinese representatives begin to argue, accusing each other's nations of hiding information. Physicist Ethan Noble from Australia silences them, explaining that entering and conquering 4 dungeons simultaneously would require a vast number of seekers. Ethan reminds them that defeating a single lord in the past required 15 elite seekers and still resulted in 7 casualties, making a simultaneous 4-pronged attack impossible. Another researcher angrily asks for an explanation for the breaking ores on the tablet. Ethan calmly suggests that their core assumption might have been wrong from the start. He explains their assumption: the colored ores on the tablet corresponded to monsters in dungeons of the same color. However, the 4 lords defeated this time were of different colors, implying they were not in the same dungeon. He points out that the Black Dungeon is mysterious and largely unexplored, especially considering the Black Ore broke 2 weeks prior. Another researcher interjects that no country allows unauthorized entry into a Black Dungeon. Ethan counters that this only applies to managed dungeons and there could be new, unreported ones. The chairman challenges his theory, questioning where seekers capable of reaching the 100th floor would come from. Ethan proposes his theory. An unknown seeker defeated the Duke in a newly discovered Black Dungeon and then continued to defeat the Lords in rapid succession. While Yuma pets Mamezu at home, Ethan concludes his speculation at the meeting, positing that this lone seeker must be on par with or even stronger than the world's most powerful seeker groups. As another researcher dismisses the idea as ridiculous, the meeting is interrupted. Someone bursts in with urgent news. A smirk spreads across Ethan's face. His theory might not be wrong after all. The messenger announces that one of the 6 kings, the Black King, has been defeated, causing its ore on the tablet to shatter. Back at his house, Yuma reflects on the battle, telling Mamezu that the big slime was tough, but he was even stronger. The huge slime he fought the previous day depleted his entire stock of cooling sprays and burners. This leaves him with no way to deal with the daily metal slime. As he heads out, he's greeted by his energetic dog, Mamezu. He remarks that for over a year, Mamezu has faithfully barked every morning, signaling the presence of a slime. When Yuma arrives at the usual spot with Mamezu, he finds the ground empty. The hole that has been a constant presence is completely gone. He panics, wondering if killing the huge slime, which he now suspects was a boss, caused the dungeon to disappear for good. Trying to see the bright side, Yuma tells himself that he's finally free from his daily obligation. However, he goes through his routine in a daze, the sudden change leaving him feeling unsettled. He can now enjoy a less hectic morning, taking his time with breakfast and not rushing to school. As he walks, he tries to convince himself of the positives. He'll save money on expenses. His clothes will no longer be shredded. Besides, he wasn't profiting from it anyway. But his attempts at self-reassurance fall flat, realizing he had wanted someone to recognize his hard work. He's struck by an incomprehensible feeling of loss over the disappearance of the very thing he wanted gone. On his way, he's startled by his friend Kid. She remarks on him being early for a change. Kid mentions she heard he was very late the previous day and asks if he got any sleep. Unwilling to reveal the truth about battling the giant slime, Yuma keeps it to himself. He fibs that he just overslept, a claim Kid clearly doesn't believe. He tells Kid she won't have to worry about him being late anymore. His melancholic tone leaves her confused. Later that day, Yuma sits at his desk, still contemplating the sudden void in his life. Staring at his university acceptance letter, Yuma feels a sense of unease. He questions if this path is what he truly wants. He sees himself as someone without dreams or motivation, never fully immersing himself in anything. However, a glance at his phone makes him smile. His search history is filled with dungeon-related queries. He realizes that for the past year, he had dedicated himself completely to that small dungeon in his yard. Though he lacked a grand purpose, he had given it everything he had. This realization sparks a change. Where he once might have been cynical, he now has a clear, if unrealistic, dream. With newfound determination, Yuma declares that he wants to become a seeker. He immediately starts researching the STI, the seeker training institution that his friends Cade and Louis plan to attend. He learns it's a prestigious facility, doubling as a research center, and known for being the first in Japan to capture monsters. The curriculum is demanding, with a 6-month program and expulsion for anyone who fails the bi-monthly exams. To prepare, Yuma begins listing his strengths for the self-promotion class. His first asset is metal transformation, which he believes will be useful as a seeker. The ability grants him near invincibility and resistance to the elements. His second strength, gained from the giant slime, is the unique ability to transform parts of his body into weapons. He discovers a third strength from his metal form. He can visualize a gel-like state and transform into liquid metal. This ability will be perfect for infiltrating tight spaces in dangerous dungeons. Now he turns his attention to his weaknesses. The first weakness is a critical one. His metal transformation is a clear sign that he obtained his powers from a black dungeon without authorization. If discovered, he'll be exposed for breaking the law. He discovers that entering black dungeons is strictly regulated and violations are considered serious crimes. He realizes he must hide this fact at all costs. His second weakness is his mana index of 0, which prevents him from using magic. After that, he considers his third and biggest problem. To become a professional, he must join a qualified organization to enter dungeons. This is because individuals are forbidden from entering the deeper levels, only authorized groups can. He laments that he should have aimed for the Seeker Training Institution instead of university. He feels it's too late, having only realized this after his university exams ended. A sudden memory of Kate studying for her STI exam that very morning gives him a spark of hope. He realizes the exam hasn't happened yet. Finding that applications for STI are still being accepted, he rushes to find Kid. He calls out to her in her classroom. He nervously asks to speak with her for a bit. Surprised by his unexpected visit, Kid wonders what brought him to her class. Yuma awkwardly asks Kid for a favor. He bows his head and asks her to teach him how to study, much to her shock. Kid is utterly shocked. In all their years as childhood friends, he has never made such a request. She questions his sudden change of heart, reminding him that he's already been accepted into a university. He explains his newfound interest in dungeons and that STI has extended its application deadline. Kid, still skeptical, reminds him of his past cynicism. Yuma sincerely apologizes. He insists he is serious this time and wants to give it his all. He worries that it might be too late for him to try. Kid reassures him that it's never too late to try his best. However, she warns that their time until the exam is short. She explains that STI prioritizes aptitude over written exams, giving him a fighting chance if he applies himself. With an encouraging smile, she says she's sure he won't complain. She asks if he's ready for the challenge. Yuma eagerly accepts the challenge, and Kid promises to drill everything into his head. Kid begins an intense study regimen. They spend the next few days cramming for the exam. With only 3 days left, Yuma remains focused. The day of the exam arrives at the STI main building. Kid and Yuma part ways to go to their respective test venues, wishing each other the best. Kid teases him about their childhood rival Louis, but Yuma is determined to pass before facing him. Feeling confident after the written portion thanks to Kid's intense tutoring, Yuma moves on to the next stage. Next up are the main events, the mana measurement and the practical test. He's nervous about the practical test, about which he knows little. He learns it involves defeating a monster to have his mana gain rate measured. While waiting, a knowledgeable girl explains that the test uses red slimes because they are ideal for measuring mana gain. Yuma is impressed by her knowledge and happy to meet someone his own age. She introduces herself as Kagurazaka, an 18-year-old third-year student. Kagurazaka offers to share what she knows about mana and the exam while they wait, which Yuma gratefully accepts. During the mana measurement, the examiner confirms that Yuma's mana index is 0, as he anticipated. Kagurazaka reassures him that starting at 0 is fine. She explains that what truly matters is one's potential for mana growth. Mana is crucial for a seeker's survival and power, enabling them to create protective barriers and use stronger magic. Kagurazaka elaborates on the key metrics, the mana gain rate and the upper mana limit, both of which differ from person to person. An examiner then provides them with knives. They are instructed to defeat a red slime to have their subsequent mana gain measured. Yuma grows anxious, fearing his mana might not increase. Kagurazaka calms him, explaining that some people have a low gain rate but a high overall mana capacity. She emphasizes that these qualities vary from person to person. Stealing his resolve, Yuma reminds himself of the year he spent fighting slimes, believing his determination must be a quality in itself. He tells himself not to get cold feet now. Just then, an announcement summons the candidates for the explanation of the practical test. An official briefs the candidates, warning them of potential danger. He reveals that the practical test will be held inside Japan's only artificial dungeon. The test will be held in the artificial dungeon, a facility designed to reproduce a dungeon environment for research purposes. The official explains that beyond the door lies the first underground floor, where they will find a box containing a ball. He outlines the simple task, bring back the ball within the allotted time, but warns that they must avoid the monsters that will be released. The examinees murmur in confusion, wondering why they can't attack the monsters and what they are supposed to do with their weapons. The official explains that the test evaluates speed and courage, which is why weapons and attacking are forbidden. He adds that the monsters are the same red slimes from the mana measurement and are not a major threat, then announces that the test will begin, calling examinees by their numbers. Kagurazaka confidently reassures Yuma that the test will be easy with only red slimes as obstacles. Suddenly, a horrifying scream erupts from the dungeon, shocking the waiting examinees. Yuma is shaken, wondering what just happened as Kagurazaka looks on in disbelief. A lone red slime menacingly introduces itself as a terror of the artificial dungeon. It's revealed to be the leader of the Red Slime Army, a group that boasts of its fearsome reputation. The army swells into a massive, seemingly unstoppable wave, daring anyone to challenge their innumerable ranks. The slimes swarm the dungeon, yelling for the examinees to flee in despair. An examinee screams in terror as he is engulfed by the relentless wave of slimes. Another examinee cries for help while Kagurazaka, overwhelmed, demands a break, questioning if this is going too far. An exhausted examinee stumbles out of the dungeon, his time recorded at 8 minutes and 30 seconds. An official informs the collapsed student that he has failed the test. Kagurazaka finishes with a time of 2 minutes and 58 seconds, looking utterly drained. As the official calls for the next examinee, Yuma prepares to enter. A powerful aura emanates from the entrance, startling the horde of red slimes. The slimes react with confusion and fear. The entire mass of slime seems to part, clearing a path. Yuma feels a growing sense of nervousness, questioning what truly awaits him inside the dungeon. He remembers the terrified examinees and Kagurazaka's pale face after she finished. As the test commences, he questions his own ability to survive if even she struggled. Upon entering, Yuma notices a strange clump of slimes clinging to the wall. He cautiously makes his way past the inactive slimes, asking if they are letting him pass. After successfully retrieving the ball, he wonders if the slimes will now attack him. Yuma finds it weird that the slimes are just staying in place and not showing any signs of aggression. He concludes that the slimes must have lost steam after dealing with so many examinees and are now resting. He completes the test in 2 minutes and 28 seconds, setting a new record. Yuma happily tells Kagurazaka that he was lucky her turn came first, leaving her confused. Yuma and Kagurazaka part ways, wishing each other luck on their results. He gets a text from Keed, who says her exam is taking longer than expected and asks how his went. Confident that he did all he could, Yuma knows all that's left is to wait for the results. 1 week passes. Yuma nervously holds the letter containing his exam results. He discovers he passed and celebrates enthusiastically. His mother scolds him for being too loud, and he quickly apologizes. Yuma realizes he must explain his change of plans to his parents, who expect him to go to university. He approaches his mother, who tells him to get his act together since he's going to university soon. With a serious expression, he tells her there is something he needs to talk to both of them about. Yuma gravely informs his parents that he won't be going to university and will instead attend the Seeker training institution. His parents are stunned into silence by his declaration. His mother reflects on her son's sudden growth, contrasting it with his usual lazy behavior, as he explains the purpose of the STI. His parents express their surprise, noting that he had never shown interest in becoming a Seeker before. His mother demands to know why he didn't consult them before taking the exam, which he reveals he has already passed. He clarifies that the program is a tough 6-month term with midterm exams every 2 months, and failure means expulsion. Yuma sincerely apologizes for not telling them about his plans until now. Yuma explains that he is serious about this new path and wanted to pass the exam before bringing it up. His father questions the decision, asking if he understands how dangerous a Seeker's job is. He presses further, asking if Yuma is prepared to risk his life for this new ambition. Yuma thinks about the inherent dangers of fighting monsters in dungeons, acknowledging it's far from safe. He assures them he is aware of the risks but is determined to follow this path and has already begun preparing. His father asks why he couldn't have just studied to be a Seeker after graduating from university. Yuma explains that he initially chose university out of apathy, but now that he has a real passion, he's having second thoughts. He notices his mother's scary expression and correctly guesses she's thinking about how he's always slacked off. Feeling the weight of their skepticism, he desperately wonders how he can persuade them. His father notes that until now, Yuma has never shared his passions, likes, or thoughts with them. He expresses his surprise and pleasure at discovering that his son has a goal he wishes to pursue. Moved by his father's words, Yuma is stunned when he thanks him for telling them. His father tells him to go for it, and Yuma is ecstatic to have his approval. He makes one condition: Yuma should take a leave of absence from the university he was admitted to, not withdraw completely. He adds that if Yuma can manage as a seeker after his training, he will submit the withdrawal notice for him. Filled with gratitude, Yuma thanks his dad and promises to succeed. After Yuma leaves, his mother still wonders if it's a good idea, but his father acknowledges that the choice is ultimately Yuma's. He reflects that their son is already on his own path, and all they can do is support him so he can keep running as hard as possible. The entrance ceremony for the Seeker Training Institution is underway, and Yuma enthusiastically calls for his friends to keep up. Cade playfully remarks on Yuma's excessive excitement as he beams, with Louis smiling beside her. Louis mentions he was unaware of Yuma's ambition to be a seeker and asks Cade if she helped him prepare. Cade exclaims how great it is that all three of them are together again. Louis smiles and agrees, saying he's glad as well. Yuma reflects on how he's finally standing next to his two friends again. He looks forward to working side by side with Louis and Cade as other students discuss how classes will be assigned based on exam scores. Louis and Cade are assigned to Class 1. To his disbelief, Yuma finds himself placed in Class 3. Yuma Mitaka is shocked to learn that classes are determined by entrance exam scores. This means that for those in Class 3, they are considered underachievers from the very beginning. He meets his new classmates, Ryosuke Ashia, the oldest at 30, and Hamanaka, who is 23. At 18, Yuma introduces himself as the youngest student. Despite their differences, Ashia enthusiastically rallies them, declaring that as fellow underachievers, they should all get along. Yuma reflects on the gap between him and his friends, Rui and Cade. He realizes it stems from their diligent studying while he was lazy. Hamanaka mentions that two students in Class 1 achieved the highest mana index in history, identifying one as Kagurazaka Shin. Another student reveals Shin is the daughter of the famous Kagurazaka Pharmaceuticals. The discussion turns to the other record breaker, a high school student who caught Elsie's eye. Ashia recalls a news story about a high school student named Rui Amasawa who helped someone in a red dungeon. Yuma is stunned to learn that his friend Rui also possesses the highest mana index in history, making him a prodigy in the Seeker world. Hamanaka then shares another rumor he heard. Among the three classes, there is a student whose mana index is 0. Yuma grows visibly anxious upon hearing this. He recalls his own result, which was indeed a flat 0. Yuma laments that even fighting red slimes didn't raise his mana index. Hamanaka loudly reveals Yuma's 0 mana index score to the class, causing a stir. His classmates are amazed he passed with a 0, but Yuma explains he scored well on the written and practical exams. Ashia tries to lift everyone's spirits. He shows that his and Hamanaka's mana indices are also very low, not much different from Yuma's. He reasons that they just lack talent in that specific area. Refusing to let them give up, he suggests that their slow growth might indicate a higher overall mana capacity. Ashia insists that the starting line doesn't matter as long as they cross the finish line. His words resonate with Yuma and Hamanaka, and the three of them enthusiastically declare themselves late bloomers whose real contest is just beginning. Inspired, the three friends dedicate themselves to improving. They undergo intense combat training with artificial slimes. They also spend time studying dungeon-related laws and social conditions. On their days off, they fight monsters in the Blue Dungeon. Yuma requests to use the artificial dungeon for solo practice. A staff member, impressed by his dedication, grants him access. He knows his numbers are the lowest, so he feels he has to put in the extra effort. Believing himself to be a late bloomer, Yuma is determined to work harder than anyone else to raise his mana index. Despite all their hard work, the results are disheartening. Yuma's mana index remains at 0. Ashia remarks that staying at 0 is a talent in itself. He then delivers grim news: if they fail to raise their mana index above 50 by the midterms, they will be expelled. Some students are already starting to feel they aren't cut out to be seekers. The lack of progress isn't just their problem, discouragement is spreading throughout Class 3. Yuma soberly reflects that in this world, both effort and talent are necessary for success. Yuma receives an encouraging text from Cade. He replies with a confident sticker, hiding his struggles. Despite the cruel reality of their difference in talent, he refuses to give up. He strengthens his resolve to pass the midterms and graduate alongside Rui and Cade. The scene shifts to the International Dungeon Research Organization. A researcher reports a complete lack of information on the Black King. His colleague looks at a mysterious stone tablet and wonders if the Black King was truly defeated. The first researcher, however, expresses his absolute faith in the tablet. Ethan informs his superior that they must compile a report on artificial dungeons. The superior is clearly displeased by this assignment. Ethan explains that this is due to a series of accidents related to them occurring worldwide. The superior scoffs, callously remarking that it's their own fault for meddling with such things. The superior states he is fundamentally opposed to artificial dungeons and finds the research on monsters unacceptable. He considers it presumptuous to try and recreate the many unknown aspects of dungeons. He issues a stark warning that placing too much faith in science will eventually lead to disaster. 2 months later, in June, the students gather for a joint class training exercise. Yuma spots Rui, who confirms that their objective is to descend to the 3rd underground level of the artificial dungeon. Rui explains that a select group of 15 from Class 1, including himself, will be participating. Yuma learns that Keed and Kagurazaka are also part of the group, acting as candidates for the savior, who will be protected by the others. Their mission is to navigate to the 3rd level using a map and retrieve magic stones. Rui reveals his sword is a magic-enhanced weapon that can use powerful magic. Yuma is amazed by the concept. Yuma asks about a rumor that Rui absorbed an unprocessed ruby. Rui confirms this and says he plans to test its power in today's training. The gem was a crimson-silver ruby from the Red Dungeon, worth 14 million yen. The fact that Rui can use it means his mana index is over 700, a realization that stuns Yuma. As Rui heads off, Yuma feels the gap between them widening again. He heads to the monitor room to watch the selected group, determined to work harder. The scene shifts to the artificial dungeon's basement research area. Scientists note that the training on the upper floors is about to begin. One expresses concern about feeling vibrations this far down. His colleague dismisses it, confident in the facility's sturdy construction. The researchers check on 2 massive monsters, Adamas and Persephone, who are both calm. They're confident the reinforced glass will hold them. However, one of the men indicates that the real problem lies elsewhere. The problem is a mysterious monster egg they have been monitoring. They've detected faint movements inside and confirm it's about to hatch. A younger researcher voices his concern, pointing out the danger of an unknown monster hatching in the facility. The senior researcher is unconcerned, explaining the egg came from a shallow dungeon floor, so the monster will be a juvenile. He adds that it's contained and explorers are nearby. Suddenly, their attention is drawn to a bizarre reading on the electrocardiogram monitor. Suddenly, the monitor reflecting the researchers is violently splattered with a dark substance. In the monitor room, an instructor begins to address the students. He reminds them that dungeons are dangerous places and returning safely is paramount. He tells them to learn from observing the mock training, especially since some may have to leave after the midterm evaluation. On the monitors, Rui showcases his skills. Kagurazaka is also seen effortlessly dispatching foes. From his seat, Yuma watches, impressed by their awesome power. Yuma's classmates marvel at the high aptitude Amasawa and Kagurazaka have for their magic weapons. Yuma silently agrees that the training seems like a breeze for someone like Rui. Just then, a loud, jarring sound echoes through the room, catching him by surprise. An alarm begins to blare, startling the students. An announcement declares an emergency and orders all students to evacuate immediately. Amidst the confusion, Yuma wonders what kind of problem could have occurred. As the evacuation begins, Yuma grows anxious. He looks at the monitors, wondering if Rui and the others inside the dungeon heard the alarm. From their confused expressions, it seems they are completely unaware of the emergency. Inside the artificial dungeon, the floor beneath the elite students begins to crack and give way. One of the students looks back in sheer terror as the ground crumbles away. A student falls into the chasm of rubble. Yuma watches the monitor, his eyes wide with horror. Without a second thought, Yuma breaks away from the evacuating crowd. He sprints towards the danger as his friends desperately call for him to come back. For a brief moment, he saw the face of the student who was falling. Yuma's resolve is absolute, there's no doubt in his mind who it was.